How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the last episode of Hot Takes with Holmes podcast edition, at least for a little while. We will be back on Radio Free Radford for the spring semester once again next Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. But as they say, the show must go on. My name is Blake Holmes. Stick around with me today. I'm going to be talking about the recent action on the NFL, NCAA, and NBA worlds. However, as always, if you like what you hear on the show, then be sure to like our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us both at Hot Takes with Holmes on both YouTube and Facebook. So with that out of the way, let's get rolling. Starting it off like we always do with college basketball, we have our Highlander review, and Radford's been on an absolute tear as of late. And according to up to date right now, with I believe that's 6 straight wins, all of them, pretty much all of them being in the Big South, with the exception being Morris Hill at home. This has been another successful week. They get the win over Presbyterian. Then Gardner Webb comes to town. They take care of business with them 75-58. And then a tough game on the road, UNC Asheville. They win 71-63. UNC Asheville last year actually was the number 2 seed in the conference behind Winthrop. So that's a big time win. They are actually moving to 5-0 in the conference. This week they do have actually Longwood tonight. At Longwood, they have Charleston Southern, and then we go into the next week. So 2 Big South Conference games. Those are going to be crucial going down the stretch if they want to try to make a good NCAA tournament bid. But looking at it on a more national scale, there were some major shakeups, major games in the AP polls and the major games in just Division I in general. Duke losing their second game of the season to Syracuse last week at home. One of the first time, it's the first time they've ever lost to an unranked team at home in Coach K's career. So Syracuse getting a big win in Cameron. Then UVA and Michigan were the only 2 undefeated teams going into Saturday, and both teams actually ended up getting knocked off. Virginia losing to Duke at Cameron, big time performance there from R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson, of course. But Duke gets a big win over the Cavaliers, and then Michigan actually looking strong, 17-0, goes into Saturday and loses to Nebraska. Was it either Nebraska or I think it was Wisconsin? Actually, now that I think about it, it's still not a bad loss. It was on the road, Big Ten play. So Michigan takes their first loss and they tumble. They go from number 2 in the country all the way down to the number 6 spot in the AP polls. So now that we've got some big games out of the way and some primetime performers, the Woodson Award, you've got to assume Zion Williamson towards the top, R.J. Barrett, Kyle Guy from Virginia, Grant Williams from Tennessee might be up there, and some fantastic names that really could be towards the top of the list by the end of the season, have really separated themselves from the rest of the pack. But we see in the AP coaches poll, we have the top 5 right now. Again, a few new faces. Well, one of them was new from the beginning of the year, was around at the beginning of the year, but they've made their way back into the top 5. Tennessee actually leads the country for the second time in their school history. They are the number 1 spot in the NCAA. At 16-1, they rise from 3-1 again with losses by Duke and Michigan. They go to the number 1 spot after a perfect week. Duke is right behind them at number 2. Again, 15-2, a loss to Syracuse, but a big-time win against UVA gets them to drop only 1 spot. Number 3 is Virginia, actually going up a little bit. They were actually the number 4 spot in the country, and then after only losing 1 game, everybody else towards the top seemed to lose, so they are number 3 in the country. Number 4 is Gonzaga. After being number 1 in the country for a good while at the beginning of the year, they are back into the top 5, number 4, after losing 2 games. But again, they've been strong as of late, and that rewards them a top 5 spot. And sneaking in for the first time this season is the Michigan State Spartans. Tom Izzo got them back to the top, 16-2. They're still trailing Michigan right now by overall record. But remember, when it comes down to conference tournaments, it goes by conference record. So Michigan State leading Michigan in the Big Ten. Michigan right behind Michigan State at the number 6 spot with Nevada at number 7. Another actually interesting situation, Virginia Tech, they took a drumming to UVA earlier in the week, lost by over 20 points. And here they are. They actually moved up in the rankings. They are number 8 in the country after being around number 9. So a big time there. Virginia Tech, I can't think of a time in recent history they've been as high as number 8 in the country. And looking to potentially try to improve as they go. And they got a tough slate ahead of them. Again, ACC is never easy, but it's going to be an interesting situation as they go through the rest of the season. Now, moving on to the NFL. It was championship week. We now have the Super Bowl set, and there were some interesting moments in the conference championship games. We start with the first game of the day. It was the Los Angeles Rams traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints in the Superdome. We saw an overtime game, which it was weird because we actually saw 2 overtime games for the first time in championship week history. So we see in the Rams defense, you would have thought, you need a stabilizing factor. You need a big-time performance by your playmakers. So you look towards Todd Gurley. You look towards Jared Goff. Well, they got it from one of them. Todd Gurley, top 3 running back in the league, premier back, had a rough game. Only 4 carries for 10 rushing yards. He didn't have a touchdown, but again, 4 carries for 10 yards. In the receiving game, 1 catch for 3 yards. Jared Goff, on the other hand, 25 of 40, 297 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Not fantastic numbers, but you can deal with it. You can roll with it. And it was really their defense, the clutch of their defense, that got them a big-time win. But another thing happened, which I will discuss in just a moment. The New Orleans side, Drew Brees, 1 more completion, same attempts as Jared Goff, 26 of 40 for 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Alvin Kamara with only 15 rushing yards, Mark Ingram with only 31. But Kamara made his heyday as he usually does in the receiving game. 11 receptions for 96 yards. Again, a big-time performance there in the receiving game from Kamara. Always been a premier pass-catching back. So, big-time performance at the end. But the thing that everybody's talking about is the no call. There was a clutch position towards the end of the game. New Orleans had it would have had it right within their own 10-yard line. They throw it up, and the corner for the Rams just levels Mike Thomas. Completely way too early, but no call, no flag. And I'll be honest. I didn't really matter to me who came out of the NFC. It's not something that I'm really concerned with. But that was a horrible job at officiating by the NFL officials. It wasn't close. There wasn't really anything that should have said he shouldn't have been flagged for it. So the idea was, as much as some anti-Saints fans may rejoice and want to, it was a horrible call. It really was nowhere close. And again, that really ultimately set up the Rams to be able to go to overtime and take a win in the Superdome, which is no easy task by any means. There's no easy way to beat the Saints in the Superdome. And it was actually off the leg of Greg Zuerlein as he hits a 57-yard field goal in overtime to send the Rams to the Super Bowl. So the Los Angeles Rams are your NFC champions, and they will be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. So we had that game, but who were they going to play? Who was up next? It was the Patriots, as much as we love and hate the dynasties, the New England Patriots against the upstart and young Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. It was shaping up to be a fantastic game, and that's exactly what we got. Going into an overtime game again, as I said, first time in NFL history that both championship games went into overtime. We have Tom Brady, fantastic as always, 30 of 46, 348 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, and 80.9 quarterback rating. Again, Tom Brady, masterful on the road. Except for, the touchdown interception ratio, that's a little bit rough, but 30 to 46 for 348 yards, you'll take those numbers every single time. So did Michelle, also having a fantastic game on the ground. 29 carries for 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also, Rex Burkhead with 2 touchdowns of his own. So again, the rushing game rolling there for New England on the road. In the Kansas City side, Patrick Mahomes, 16 of 31 for 295 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions. So, again, a little bit of a different story comparing them. Tom Brady better with the completions, better with the passing yards, but Patrick Mahomes better with the touchdown interception ratio. Um, Mahomes was sacked 4 times, Brady was sacked none, and it was ultimately the sacks and the pressure that gave the win to New England. New England wins 37 to 31, and it really was the pressure that the Patriots defense was able to get on Mahomes that set up a lot of. They actually almost killed a lot of scoring drives for Kansas City. For example, early in the game, 2 different 14-yard sacks, 14-yard losses. One actually took the Chiefs out of field goal range on 3rd down. So you think about it this way: this game goes into overtime. If they can get that field goal back, it could be an entirely different ball game. So again, the pressure set by the New England Patriots defense using different looks and again creating penetration through the line was able to make Mahomes kind of have some happy feet, and it really showed in this game. Damian Williams not doing much help on the ground as well. Sammy Watkins actually led receiving, four receptions for 114 yards. So the idea was, even with all the struggles with the offensive line again, and the defense laying up a couple of lapses for Kansas City, they had every chance to take this game at home, but it was the same situation. Another potential missed blown call by the officials that set up the Patriots win. So not as blatant as the Rams and the Saints, but Tom Brady goes back to pass. A defensive lineman, I could not quite remember who the actual lineman was, actually reaches over the top of a lineman and kind of gets Brady's shoulder. So not really grabbing anything, he's just got his hand on the shoulder, and the flag gets thrown for roughing the passer, giving Tom Brady and the Patriots a first down. That was late in the game. The Patriots would end up going on to win. And that was a situation where Kansas City had them 3rd down. If you get them there, if you stop them, and you get a potential 4th down stop, you have a chance to win this game. So the idea is 2 rough calls by the official, one an actual call and one a blatant no call, really was what set these games apart and gave the wins to the teams that they did. But with that being said, the Patriots, I saw a lot. They weren't getting a lot of calls. I don't like the Patriots. I'm not a fan of the New England Patriots, but they weren't getting a lot of calls early in the game. Kansas City was the benefactor of a few, and again, I really believe that I don't like the idea of ending the game on a penalty call, but to say that the Patriots were the only team getting calls, that one's a little bit of a stretch. So that leaves the Super Bowl LII to be the New England Patriots coming out of the AFC, meeting in Atlanta to take on the Los Angeles Rams. We've seen Boston versus LA before in the World Series. Boston took that win. We'll see if it goes any different. So, because of that means it's time for the Pro Bowl. So, Pro Bowl, again, as it always goes, we see it goes championship weeks, Pro Bowl, then the Super Bowl. So, we see that we're going to see some new players, some interesting, really, again, some new players. The teams that aren't represented by the Super Bowl, we still get to see their fantastic players in the Pro Bowl. So again, it was announced here that just about an hour ago that replacing Jared Goff in this Pro Bowl, because again he will be going to the Super Bowl, it will be Mitchell Trubisky from the Chicago Bears. Actually, a very good season coming out from him in his sophomore season. So we look here and we're going to see the. We're actually going to see I'm going to read out the Pro Bowl roster. So for the AFC and the offensive side, on the wide receiver, we have DeAndre Hopkins for the Houston Texans, Tyreek Hill for the Kansas City Chiefs, Keenan Allen for the Los Angeles Chargers, Juju Smith-Schuster for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And excuse me, actually, DeAndre Hopkins will not be playing. He actually has asked for a sub. So no DeAndre Hopkins. Tyreek Hill, Keenan Allen, Juju Smith-Schuster for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Jarvis Landry for the Cleveland Browns. And at the tackle position, we have Taylor Lewan for the Tennessee Titans, Alejandro Villanueva for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Eric Fisher for the Kansas City Chiefs. For the guard position, we have David DeCastro for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Marshall Yanda for the Baltimore Ravens, Quentin Nelson for the Indianapolis Colts, Joel Bitonio for the Cleveland Browns. And again, similar situation. David DeCastro actually asked for a sub, so it will be Bitonio replacing David DeCastro. Marquise Pouncey for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Mike Pouncey, two brothers, will take the center position for the AFC. For tight end, we have Travis Kelce for the Kansas City Chiefs and Eric Ebron for the Indianapolis Colts. Actually, Ebron, but there was a little bit of a redemption year coming from Detroit, seeming to struggle a little bit. In the quarterback position, this was the hot spot. Patrick Mahomes for the Kansas City Chiefs leads the way as he'll probably win the MVP this year. Phillip Rivers for the Los Angeles Chargers, again asking for a sub. Tom Brady for the New England Patriots will be going to the Super Bowl, so he will not be in the Pro Bowl. Andrew Luck will replace Phillip Rivers for the Indianapolis Colts, and Deshaun Watson will replace Tom Brady for the Houston Texans. In the running back position, we have James Conner. We have James Conner for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Melvin Gordon for the Los Angeles Chargers, Philip Lindsay for the Denver Broncos, and Lamar Miller for the Houston Texans. And actually, it looks like Philip Lindsay was actually hurt towards the end of the season, so it will be Lamar Miller replacing Philip Lindsay. Anthony Sherman for the Kansas City Chiefs will take the fullback position, and that is the offense for the AFC. In the defense, J.J. Watt got the nod for the Houston Texans, but he will not play in this Pro Bowl as well. Myles Garrett will for the Cleveland Browns, Melvin Ingram for the Los Angeles Chargers, and Calais Campbell for the Jacksonville Jaguars will replace J.J. Watt. On the interior line position, Geno Atkins gets the nod. He will not be playing for the Cincinnati Bengals, but for the remainder, Jarrell Casey for the Tennessee Titans, Cameron Hayward for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Kyle Williams for the Buffalo Bills. It actually looks like Jarrell Casey will not be playing this as well. Brandon Williams for the Baltimore Ravens, and he will take Geno Atkins' place. In the outside linebacker position, Von Miller for the Denver Broncos. He will be playing in the Pro Bowl. Jadeveon Clowney will not. He's a member of the Houston Texans. D4 for the Kansas City Chiefs will, and TJ Watt replaces Jadeveon Clowney for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the inside linebacker position, CJ Mosley for the Baltimore Ravens, and Bernardrick McKinney will play the inside linebacker for the AFC. In the cornerback position, Xavier Howard for the Miami Dolphins, Jalen Ramsey for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Stephon Gilmore for the New England Patriots. But again, Stephon Gilmore, Super Bowl. So we'll have to see how exactly we will see who replaces him. And Denzel Ward for the Cleveland Browns. For free safety, Derwin James for the Los Angeles Chargers, the dynamic rookie, and Eric Weddle for the Baltimore Ravens. For strong safety, we have Jamal Adams for the New York Jets. And the special teams, the kicker will be Jason Myers for the New York Jets. For the first time in a while, we have not seen Justin Tucker, and last year we also saw Chris Boswell. We know that he had a little bit of a catastrophic season. And the long snapper, Casey Kreider for the Denver Broncos. The punter will be Brett Kern for the Tennessee Titans, and the return men will be Andre Roberts for the New York Jets and Adrian Phillips for the Los Angeles Chargers. So that's going to do it for the AFC. We'll go to the NFC now. In the offense, again, wide receiver, Julio Jones gets the nomination. He will not play for the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Thomas will for the New Orleans Saints. Adam Thielen from the Minnesota Vikings. Devontae Adams from the Green Bay Packers. And Mike Evans from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will replace Julio Jones. At tackle, Tyron Smith will not play for the Dallas Cowboys. Teron Armstead for the New Orleans Saints. Trent Williams for the Washington Redskins. And Lane Johnson for the Philadelphia Eagles will replace Tyron Smith. At guard, Zach Martin for the Dallas Cowboys, Brandon Brooks for the Philadelphia Eagles, Trey Turner for the Carolina Panthers. At center, we have Alex Mack for the Atlanta Falcons and Max Unger for the New Orleans Saints. At tight end, we have Zach Ertz for the Philadelphia Eagles. He will not play in this game. George Kittle for the San Francisco 49ers, and Austin Hooper from the Atlanta Falcons will replace Zach Ertz. At quarterback, we have Drew Brees from the New Orleans Saints, Jared Goff from the Los Angeles Rams, Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers. And again, as I said, Jared Goff, he will not be playing. He goes to the Super Bowl, so Mitchell Trubisky will be replacing him. At running back, we have Todd Gurley. Again, he will have to be replaced as well. We'll have to see in the future who will replace him later on in the week. But he got the number one nod as the running back in the NFC. Saquon Barkley right behind him, and Ezekiel Elliott for the Dallas Cowboys. My guess to replace Todd Gurley will probably be Christian McCaffrey from the Carolina Panthers, but again, we'll have to wait and see. At fullback, we have Kyle, I cannot remember how to pronounce his last name, from the San Francisco 49ers. At defense, we have the defensive end Cameron Jordan from the New Orleans Saints, DeMarcus Lawrence from the Dallas Cowboys, and Danielle Hunter from the Minnesota Vikings. At interior lineman, Aaron Donald again will not be playing Super Bowl for the Los Angeles Rams. Fletcher Cox from the Philadelphia Eagles, Akeem Hicks from the Chicago Bears, K'Wan Short from the Carolina Panthers will be replacing Aaron Donald. At the outside linebacker position, Khalil Mack, he got the number one nod as he should have, but he will not be playing in the Pro Bowl for personal reasons. Ryan Kerrigan for the Washington Redskins, Anthony Barr from the Minnesota Vikings, and Olivier Vernon from the New York Giants will replace Khalil Mack. At inside linebacker, Luke Kuechly got the nod, but again, personal reasons he will not be playing in the Pro Bowl. Bobby Wagner for the Seattle Seahawks, and Leighton Vander Esch gets the nod as the sub for Luke Kuechly. At cornerback, we have Kyle Fuller from the Chicago Bears, Patrick Peterson from the Arizona Cardinals, Darius Slay from the Detroit Lions, and Byron Jones from the Dallas Cowboys. At free safety, Eddie Jackson for the Chicago Bears, and Harrison Smith from the Minnesota Vikings. And at strong safety, Landon Collins was the guy, but he actually again, will not play for personal reasons from the New York Jets. Malcolm Jenkins from the Eagles will replace him. At special teams for the kicker, we have Aldrick Rosas from the New York Giants. We have the long snapper, who hasn't been named yet. The punter will be Michael Dixon. Returnman, Tariq Cohen, again, well-deserved, and Corey Littleton from the Los Angeles Rams. But again, Littleton going to the Super Bowl. So Michael Thomas from the New York Giants, not the other Mike Thomas, will be replacing him in the Pro Bowl. So that is your Pro Bowl roster. That will be live throughout the week. We actually have the Skills Challenge, as that's been going on for the past couple of years. We have the Skills Challenge earlier in the week, along with the actual Pro Bowl that will take place on Sunday. So, with that out of the way, I want to talk about a couple of rules here with the NFL. So, the first question I'm going to ask is, should the NFL change overtime rules? While we got an exciting ending to the Rams and the Saints game, the ending of the Patriots and Chiefs game was less than exciting. I mean, it really wasn't that fun to watch, and the reason why is I've never understood why the NFL likes to do the idea of sudden death overtime. I'm not a fan of that. Rather, I would like to do I'm not saying to completely adapt the NCAA's overtime rules, but I like it. There are so many more overtime games that are a lot more exciting in the NCAA than there are in the NFL. And here's my thing. Here's what would be my proposal for the NFL. My proposal for the NFL is simply I'm not saying you can still do a kickoff if you would like, but the idea that someone can get the ball first and just instantly score a touchdown and win, I don't like that idea. I'm not a fan. Again, why is it fair that a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who are so reliant on their offense, they get their season is pretty much decided by the flip of a coin? I don't like that. Again, you can make the case, well, their defense needs to step up, and they do. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but it's so anticlimactic to see a big time drive from Patrick Mahomes set up a field goal to go into overtime. You think the Chiefs have a chance to do it, and Tom Brady wins the coin toss, receives, and just drives down the field slowly for the win, like we've seen time and time again. While it's impressive, again, I just would love to see the NFL try to adapt a different overtime rules to make the game a little bit more exciting. Again, as I go through and explain from the beginning of overtime in the college football world, both teams are set at the 25-yard line. You have each team gets a chance to score, and after the third overtime, if it's still scored, it's still tied. You have to go for two on each touchdown. So the idea is, you don't end in a tie, and I'm also a big supporter of that. In the regular season, I don't like the idea of letting NFL games end with a tie. A professional league, they don't need to be. They need to decide each and every week. And I think that if you adapt an overtime system, kind of like the NCAA has, then you get that. I think that the way you do it is you run a full possession. Like they can kick off and you can drive down the field from there. But and also I wouldn't say like no punting in overtime. I would actually say in overtime it's four down territory unless you kick a field goal. You have to go from a kickoff down the field. So the idea is both teams, both offenses have to earn their points. And if the first team scores a touchdown, then the other team gets a chance to match them. If they don't, that's it. That's ball game. I don't like the idea of just rewarding the team that scores first, the overtime. I don't think that's fair, and it's not really exciting to watch as a football fan personally. Like I said, I was very let down by the ending of the Patriots-Chiefs game, not just because the Patriots won, because of how anticlimactic it really was. Again, you knew from the minute he got the coin toss that Tom Brady's going to drive down the field. He's going to score. There really wasn't much of a doubt. So the idea was I could turn off the TV and have the same thoughts before overtime that I would have after it. I watched the overtime, of course, and it was just, again, very anticlimactic. And the other question I had to ask was, should the NFL allow penalties to be challenged? It's been a hot topic for a while now. Some penalties, the officials, you just can't challenge in the NFL. And while, again, some people may say, well, yeah, it's the official, it's their eyes. You have to be. I think you have to allow penalties to be challenged. Again, when you allow penalties to be challenged, you're not going to get every. And I think the people are afraid of is there's going to be a false start call for 5 yards, and so it's going to throw the challenge flag. Unless the team scores on that false start call, there's going to be no reason to challenge that. They're not going to really waste a big time thing like a challenge there. But some penalties this season have just been so abhorrent and so terrible that I don't see how you don't allow someone to be able to challenge penalties. The New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams, again, as I said, at the end of that game, I don't understand how you don't say, well, they should have had a chance to challenge that because, again, it was blatant. There was no call. There should have been a call. On the other side, again, I don't know how you don't allow them to throw the challenge flag and say, how is that roughing the passer? While, again, it may end up saying, well, it was, so be it. But the idea is you should be allowed to challenge penalties or to say that, hey, there was a penalty there. Can you look at it? Again, I don't know if it'll happen, but I really wish it would as we avoid some of these late game penalties that really shouldn't have been penalties to begin with, or should have been penalties that were not called. So that ends my rant of the NFL. So again, some exciting weeks, and we'll have a full Super Bowl preview next week to celebrate us coming back live. Isaiah will be back with me again. We'll have a big time Super Bowl preview next week. We'll talk about the NBA a little bit more in NCAA, but it's going to be mainly the Super Bowl and talking about Rams versus Patriots for the second time in Super Bowl history. But again, that'll do it for the NFL this week. Going to the NBA, we talk about the standings review. In the Eastern Conference, again, over halfway through the season now, the Milwaukee Bucks lead at 33-12. Number 2 is the Toronto Raptors at 35-13. Once again, win percentage isn't necessarily the most important, wins aren't the most important thing. It's about your win percentage, and the Milwaukee Bucks have it over the Raptors right now, even though the Raptors have more wins. The Indiana Pacers are at 31-15. The Philadelphia 76ers are right behind them at number 4 at 30-17. Number 5 is the Boston Celtics at 28-18. And again, top 5 is where you see the teams really separate themselves in the Eastern Conference. The number 6 team is the Brooklyn Nets at 24-23. Actually, a winning record, a team that not really many people expected to be a good team. But here they are, number 6 in the Eastern Conference. Number 7 is the Miami Heat at 22-22. And number 8 is the Charlotte Hornets at 22-24. Detroit taking a step back. They're actually 2 games behind the Charlotte Hornets right now for the number 8 spot in the Eastern Conference. Going into the Western Conference, however, we see the Golden State Warriors at 32-14. The Denver Nuggets are right behind them at 31-14. Another big-time game. The Warriors blew out the Nuggets on their home floor at Pepsi Center, and Denver just no answers in that game. Golden State broke a record 51 points in the first quarter alone. So Golden State stands on top of the rankings by themselves at 32-14. Number 3 is the Oklahoma City Thunder at 27-18. And the top two teams really separate themselves. Again, Golden State and Denver are 3 games ahead, or excuse me, that's 4 games ahead of the closest team, which is the Oklahoma City Thunder. So those two teams making themselves comfortable. Number 4 is the Portland Trailblazers, tied with the Oklahoma City Thunder at 28-19. Number 5 is the Houston Rockets at 26-19. Number 6 is the San Antonio Spurs at 27-21. Number 7 is the Utah Jazz, sneaking their way back into the playoffs at 26-21. Number 8 is the Los Angeles Clippers at 25-21. The Lakers have fallen out of the playoff race right now with LeBron James still nursing his groin injury. He will not be back for a little while, and they have been struggling with that. And Lonzo Ball also spraining the same ankle he did earlier in the season. He will be out 4 to 6 weeks, according to the Lakers. The Kings are right behind the Lakers, the Timberwolves, the Pelicans. This is a deep conference. I don't need to go much farther. And again, just to do it like I do every single week. The Eastern Conference getting a little bit better as we see only 3 teams that are not in playoff contention or not in the playoff race for the Western Conference could be in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. So East getting a little bit better this week compared to like the 6 teams that could have been in the playoffs last week. So that's your standing review. Again, we see some contenders. The Golden State Warriors strong as ever. They now have DeMarcus Cousins back as well. And Denver also right behind them, a half game behind them again. And here's the thing. You have these teams that are half a game back, but the next closest team is 4 games behind them. So they have a cushion, and that's a good thing to have as they go into the All-Star break. Another thing for Denver, Isaiah Thomas expecting to be back around February the 11th. So the idea is not too long before we get the return of IT. Will that change the team? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. And today is the last day of All-Star voting. So All-Stars, if you want to go in, get your votes, get your All-Stars, your favorite players of the All-Star game, go and put your votes in today. They are worth 2. Each vote that you give is doubled. So the idea is you go to the Western Conference. LeBron James leading the front court at 3,770,000 votes. This is a guy, again, who was dominating, was a fantastic player for the Lakers and got the groin injury. He's been out for a good while now. Luka Doncic is right behind him with Paul George, Kevin Durant, and Anthony Davis rounding out the top 5 for the front court. Once again, as much as I like the swagger of Luka Doncic, and I think that he could be a fantastic player in this league, that voting is a joke. It shouldn't be Luka. Luka, in my opinion, could he be a top 10 in front court? Absolutely, he could. But to have Luka Doncic over Paul George, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, and Nikola Jokic is a joke, is a travesty. And Nikola Jokic being all the way down to number 7 in the Western Conference is also a travesty. He shouldn't be below Steven Adams. And again, a lot of analysts are coming out and saying he should be the starter for the Western Conference. And, you know, his points per game is a little bit marred because of an earlier season stretch where he just didn't really want to shoot the ball. He was a very unselfish player, and he was trying to pass the ball too much. He wasn't taking charge enough. So the idea is his points per game isn't that high. Isn't as high as it could be. But we take a look. He's a triple-double threat every single night. He's a threat to go out and put up 12 assists as a center. And again, he's like 7th in the league right now for assists per game as a 7-footer. So the idea is it's really not – it's ridiculous to me to have him all the way down at 7th below Steven Adams, and both Steven Adams and Luka Doncic. I would understand a little bit more, but those two I really have a problem with. In the guards, however, Stephen Curry leading the way at 2,979,000 votes. Derrick Rose right behind him at number 2. James Harden at number 3. Number 4 is Russell Westbrook. Number 5 is Klay Thompson. Again, I said this last week. I love a comeback story. I love Derrick Rose coming back and being able to make his way back in the NBA. There is absolutely no reason he should be the number 2 spot in the Western Conference, though. I don't care what. Oh, he had a 50-point game. Okay, he doesn't start for his team. He doesn't play a ton of valuable. He plays valuable minutes towards the end of the games, but I mean, he doesn't start for the team. And again, there are better players. James Harden is playing at a historic rate right now. Have you seen what he's doing? Like 17 straight games with 30 points or more. The dude is balling right now, and he is behind a Derrick Rose who has had a few good games this year and only averaging about 20. It's ridiculous. James Harden should be the number 2 spot right now. Honestly think that Damian Lillard should be higher than he is, number 6. But Russell Westbrook, I say this every time. It's weird to me to say that he's having a down year. and yet he's still like averaging a triple double because he's made it so mainstream, he's made it so common that when you don't see the Russell Westbrook that we saw 2 years ago, you're almost surprised. You say, "Well, what happened to Russell?" When in reality, he's still probably at the very least a top 10 player in the NBA. So again, these ratings in the Western Conference, I will come out straight saying they're a joke. DeMarcus Cousins at number 10, he's played one game or like a couple games with the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green is having a down year for the Warriors in his points production. He's not scoring the ball well at all right now. He does a lot of good things with the Warriors. Number 9, Kuzma, number 8, I could see that one a little bit. But again, not a fan of these rankings. Now in the Eastern Conference, for the front court, Giannis Antetokounmpo leads the way. Number 2 is Kawhi Leonard. Number 3 is Joel Embiid. Number 4 is Jason Tatum. Number 5 is Jimmy Butler. Again, similar story in that I like the top. Now this one I like the top. I do. I think this is the lineup that you want to see. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, Joel Embiid. That is the 3 that deserve to be a starter in the All-Star game. When you take a look at the rest of them, Jason Tatum number 4, no. Jimmy Butler, number 5, no. Blake Griffin at number 6, I think he should be higher than number 6. I'm not a fan of, again, Gordon Hayward at number 9, no. He's actually having a career low year, it seems like, with the Boston Celtics. And Al Horford at number 10. I think Al Horford should actually be above Gordon Hayward. But again, Blake Griffin being at number 6 behind Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler, I'm not a fan of. With guards, Kyrie Irving leads the way with over 3 and just a strong stranglehold on the voting for guards in the Eastern Conference. Dwayne Wade is number 2. Number 3 is Kemba Walker. And number 4, Ben Simmons. And number 5 is Victor Oladipo. Again, as much as he's a legend, as much as I'd love to see Dwayne Wade in the All-Star game, does he deserve it? No, he doesn't. I don't care if it's his legend. I don't care if it's his legacy. I don't care if this is going to be his last dance. He's not putting up the stats and leading his team to be the number 2 guard in the way. And again, this is why I talked about last week why I think that fan voting should not have as big of an impact as it does, because it's ridiculous to me that Dwayne Wade, Kemba Walker is just a man on fire right now for the Charlotte Hornets. He's leading the team. He's the only reason they are where they are right now. Dwayne Wade is not the reason why the Heat are where they are right now. And Dwayne Wade is number 2 in the East just because he's a legend. Again, a fantastic player, a great career for Dwayne Wade. It's ridiculous that he's number 2 in the Eastern Conference above Kemba Walker and really Victor Oladipo and Ben Simmons as well. He shouldn't be anywhere close to the top 2. Again, I'd love to see him get a reserve spot as a farewell, a thank you for coming to for being a legend in this league. But to have him at the number 2 spot and the fans, come on now. And I don't like that. Again, voting ends today. We will know what the final All-Star rosters will be here in the foreseeable future. But that'll do it here for the NBA All-Star votings. And now, let's talk about our last topic of the day. The MLB, Major League Baseball. I haven't talked about it for a while here on the show, but that's because I've been waiting towards the end. We actually have free agency coming in right now, and that's what I kind of wanted to touch on. So the top 2 free agents, obviously, Manny Machado played for the Dodgers last year. Bryce Harper played for the Nationals. Are both free agents, so they have yet to be signed right now as well. And so we take a look here. Manny Machado, again, has met with the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Yankees, and a couple of other teams as well. I believe the Giants as well. And nothing came out of it. Bryce Harper, similar story. The top free agent that's signed probably, though, is Patrick Corbin for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He signed with the Washington Nationals to come across the country to the NL East. He will pitch for the Nationals, joining Max Scherzer next year. Josh Donaldson, third baseman for the Cleveland Indians last year, traded from Toronto to Cleveland, signed with the Atlanta Braves. Yasmani Grandal, catcher for the Dodgers, he signed with the Milwaukee Brewers. Big time pickup for them there. Nelson Cruz from the Mariners, again, a big-time power hitter, signs with the Minnesota Twins. Andrew McCutchen goes from the New York Yankees to the Philadelphia Phillies. So trading leagues once again is Andrew McCutchen. Charlie Morton, right-handed starter for the Houston Astros, will go to Tampa to join the Rays. Michael Brantley for the Indians goes to Houston as well. And then we see Craig Kimbrell, closer for the World Series champion Boston Red Sox, still has not signed with anybody. J.A. Happ, left-handed pitcher for the Yankees, re-signed. And Really, as far as big time team changes, Andrew Miller goes from the Cleveland Indians to the St. Louis Cardinals, so that's a big time pickup there. But again, as far as huge acquisitions go, that's about all we got so far, and we'll see in the future in the upcoming weeks where Bryce Harper and Manny Machado decide to go. Machado, a little bit of an infamous guy in the MLB, and Bryce Harper, a big decision to stay in the NL, go AL, stay in the NL East. We'll have to see. So to round it out, I want to give my hot take for the week. And so again, this is basically just a take that a lot of people either don't agree with or think that it may not be correct, but it's still interesting to see. So my hot take for the week has to be in the NBA. Again, as I said, I alluded to this. My hot take for the week is that Luka, and I say this honestly because remember, while fan voting matters and fan it gives you 50%, the other 25 and the other 50% comes from media and current player votings. So with my hot take for the week, at the very least, Nikola Jokic will finish in the top 4 for All-Star voting. Because if you think the only center in the league in the Western Conference right now that you could say the only 2 centers you could even compare, and even then only one of them I think you could give a legitimate case to, is Anthony Davis and Karl Anthony Towns. Nikola Jokic is having historic numbers. He's really putting up a stat line that only Wilt Chamberlain has. And so, again, Nikola Jokic will finish with the fan, again, remember, with fan, media, and coach votings, he will be in the top 4 for the front court for the Western Conference. And I think he should start. But again, I'll put my bias to the side again. I think he really is the premier center right now in the Western Conference. We see what he's done. Got the Nuggets all the way up to the number 2 spot. Anthony Davis all the way out of the playoffs right now. So Nikola Jokic, top 4 in front court voting. Well, that is going to do it here on Hot Takes with Holmes Podcast Edition for, again, the last time of this for a little while. If you like what you heard, then be sure to like our Facebook page where we'll update all that goes on here with Hot Takes with Holmes. We're also on YouTube once again where all of our broadcasts are uploaded to. You're probably listening to it right now on YouTube. So find us on Hot Takes with Holmes on both sides. Again, we will be live next week on RadioFreeRadford.com. So again, RadioFreeRadford.com, 2 to 3 p.m. next Tuesday. We will have our Super Bowl preview, our official Hot Takes with Holmes Super Bowl LII preview. So again, tune in for the first broadcast of the spring semester. And we got one last ride on Radio Free Radford this semester. So be sure to tune in as much as you can. For my co-host Isaiah Adair, who will be back with me next week, I'm Blake Holmes, and we'll see you next week on Radio Free Radford.